Alrighty. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for joining us for this very special Vic Farmer Time event. Thank you for celebrating National Ag Week with us. My name's Jane and I work for Primary Industries Education Foundation Australia. I'd like to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been able to tune in today. And I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment for funding the Farmer Time project. Alrighty, now before we get started, I've just got a couple of little housekeeping bits to attend to, and then we'll get the ball rolling with Farmer Jake's presentation. So the first one is, as we're recording this session, we'd like it if everyone could just keep their cameras switched off, just so that we don't have any issues with recording anyone's faces that doesn't want to be recorded. If you could also keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. At the end of the session, we're going to open up for some questions for Farmer Jake. And so if you do have any questions, or if your students have any questions, could you please just hold on to them until that point in time, and then we'll get you to pop them in the chat. And any questions that we don't get to throughout this session, we will collate and we'll pop into an email with some answers at the end. All right, now, just so we know how much time we've got for questions and answers throughout the session, if you could please pop your school's name and the number of students that are with you today into the chat section. And that'll also just give us a bit of an indication of who and where to send some fantastic resource packs as a big thank you for joining us to celebrate National Ag Week. All right, now that's about all from me. So I'm going to hand over to Farmer Jake. Take it away, Jake.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and tell you all about the amazing job that I have being a grain grower. I'm going to pop my screen up now. Alrighty, hopefully that's working.
Yep, that's perfect.
Cool, so my name's Jake. I am a grain grower from Condamine, which is way up here in sunny Queensland, and we grow all kinds of grain crops. I'm really lucky to live and work where I am on a family farm. So on the left in that first photo, that's myself and my wife Felicity standing in front of a baby wheat crop. Can you guys see all of the little green seedlings coming up in rows? And the next photo on the right is my uncle, my father, and two mechanics who've come to help us work on a broken tractor. I get to meet all kinds of fun people all throughout the year. One of the biggest crops that we grow is wheat. You can see the wheat heads there on a crop that's nearly ready to harvest. All of the grains are tucked away nice and safe inside there, and there's a bit of rain in the background. We plant enough wheat every year that will cover about 5,000 football fields. And this is a crop that's ready to harvest, and a head is just starting in it, taking off the grain. So wheat goes into making all kinds of products that you guys will use and eat every day. So can you see the foods that are there? There's some wheat and some pasta and some noodles and buns and all kinds of things. Every year on our farm, we grow enough wheat to make 117 million sandwiches, which is enough for 4 or 5 sandwiches for every Australian. So when you put that together with all of the other wheat farms across the country, we grow so much food that we have more than we could ever eat. So we export it to other nations all around the world to feed people all over the world. One of my favourite crops that we grow here is barley. You can see the barley heads on the left there are all full of grain. The reason it's my favourite is because a lot of people know that barley goes into making beer, but it also goes into chockies, Maltesers and Milo. I'm sure that's something you guys eat regularly. So next time you're having a cup of Milo in the morning, you can tell your mum or your dad that you know that Milo is grown with Australian barley. It's grown right here. Another crop that we grow is chickpeas. You can see it's a bushy plant and it's got little pods that have the seed in them hanging from the branches. It's a legume crop and it goes into making the yummiest stews and curries. Another crop that we grow is sorghum. You can see the red grains here up on top. They're bright orange or red. Mostly these are used for animal feed, like cows and pigs and birds, but that's also used to make gluten-free products. Now, some of your friends and family might get crook in the tummy when they eat gluten from wheat. So sorghum's used to make gluten-free products like Wheat Bix so they can enjoy everything else that everyone else can. So to go through a year on our farm, first we start our crop with planting. So at the start of winter, we get our big tractor out and our big planter, and we put our seeds in the ground. This tractor here is actually steering itself. The man inside isn't doing anything. He's just supervising. So it's putting all of the seeds in the ground. We've got 3 bins here on the back of our seed cart. One's full of seed and 2 have got plant food in them. And there's a big fan at the back which blows all of the seed and plant food through all of these hoses and puts them in the ground right where they need to be. Planting takes us about 8 weeks every year. If we get the seed in the right spot into some nice moist soil, you can see all of the seedlings start to come up. These are all baby chickpeas that were planted 2 or 3 weeks earlier. Once the crop starts growing, the most important thing that we can do is keep it safe. Just like you and me, plants can get sick from disease and they can get bitten by insects. Luckily, science has products for us that we can spray to keep the insects out and to keep the plants nice and healthy from disease. If we get lots of rain during the growing season, the crop grows really well, and then we can add some more plant food later on to keep the crop nice and healthy and growing big and strong. It's very important to keep an eye on these crops as they're growing, and it's also more important to have a good buddy to help you check on these crops throughout the day. Can you see Lottie there up the top, keeping a keen eye out on the wheat? So once we've looked after the crop all through the year, it's now ready to harvest. You can see it's completely changed colour, it's dried right down, and it's time to get the big machines out to take the crop off. We've got 2 headers working here and a chaser bin to follow them to pick up all of the grain that they harvest. So you can see as these machines move across the paddock, they go nom, 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 and they munch up all of the crop. It goes through the machine, it separates it out and puts the good clean grain up on top, and the rest of the plant, the bush, the shrub, the leaves, all of the trash, everything else gets blown out the back as dust. This can be quite a slow process, and it's taken us 7 weeks this year to get across all of our harvest. So once the header is full of grain, the chaser bin comes along and picks it all up and takes it off to a truck and then goes off to market. Because we're dryland farmers, we rely on rainfall to grow our crops, and some years they're quite dry and we call them droughts. You can see that the dirt here is cracked wide open because it's so dry, and the crop on the right hand side doesn't look very happy and healthy. Can you see how it's all turned yellow and just looks pretty sick? But we do our best to store as much moisture in the soil as we can when it does rain. So when the rains return, everything looks quite happy and healthy. I love working and living where I do. It's not only my farm, but it's my home. I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. There's so much to see and so much to do. There's so much colour, and the storms are really exciting. There is so much wide open space, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'd love one day for you guys to be able to come and visit my farm and see what we do here and the amazing place that we live. Thank you so much for having me along. I've really enjoyed telling you all about everything that I get to do on my farm.
Thank you so much for that, Jake. That was amazing. Those photos of your farm at the end were so beautiful. I really hope that I get to come out for a visit one day soon. All right, what we're going to do is we'll open up for questions now. So if anybody has any questions for Farmer Jake, could you please pop them in the chat and we will read through those and Farmer Jake will answer some questions for you.
You can ask me anything you like. I'm an open book.
What kind of crop is Lottie's favourite crop?
Lottie loves barley as well, not only because it goes into making chockies, it's because it grows so thick that when she runs through it, she has to keep jumping all the time to see where she's going, and it's really quite funny to watch.
I can imagine. All right, we've got one that says, do you only rely on the rain or do you water your crops?
Thanks so much for that question. We do have to rely on rain because we don't have any irrigation. So our crops every year are grown on the rain that falls. As soon as we harvest our crop, we start storing moisture for the next year ahead. We keep all of our stubble, all of our plant material stays on the top of the ground just like a mulched garden. So that keeps weeds down and it keeps as much water in the soil as possible for our next crop.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. All right, the next one says, how many acres or hectares is your farm?
Our farm is 5,600 hectares.
Whoa.
Which is a big area for 5 staff to run.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, I'll just give it a couple more minutes and we'll see if we've got any more questions. What's your favorite job on the farm?
My favorite job on the farm. The reason I love my job so much is because there is a huge variety I get to do all different kinds of jobs all throughout the year. So it's too hard for me to pick one job as my favorite. I like the variety mostly. I never get bored doing the same thing over and over again because there's so much to do. That's
really cool. All right. We've got one from Tracy that says, how many tractors do you have?
Tracy, we have, off the top of my head, we maybe have 10 tractors of all various shapes and sizes for all doing all kinds of different jobs.
Amazing. My dad would be very jealous. I think he's only got about 4. Now, do you have any livestock on your farm?
We do have some livestock. We have 6 cows, 2 horses, and a goat.
What's the goat's name?
The goat's name is Gwen. But
Gwen
it's my
the
wife's
goat.
goat, and I just call
it goat. How can I become a farmer? Great question.
There are so many ways that you can become a farmer. You don't have to be born into a farming family. I myself was born in Brisbane before I came out here to be a farmer, which is Queensland's capital city. So there are so many jobs on the farm. You can go to university to study to be an ag scientist, or you can apply for a job straight out of school to come and drive tractors. There are just so many opportunities in ag.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. All right. Why do you like being a farmer?
I like being a farmer because my job is important. We feed people all over the world, and food is so important.
Awesome. Oh, we've got one from Aniki that says, do you ever keep some of your grain to make food with?
I sure do. So we keep some of our wheat to run through our own small flour mill to make our own flour for making homemade burritos and homemade bread. And I also keep some chickpeas in a bucket because I soak them in vinegar and put them in the freezer and then put them through the deep fryer, and they make awesome healthy snacks.
Cool.
Just like eating peanuts.
That's awesome. Alrighty. Well, unless anyone's got any more questions, I think we might wrap up I would like to say a huge thank you to Jake for that awesome presentation and an amazing insight into your farm and your life on your farm. I would like to say a huge thank you to all of our special guests who tuned in today, and a massive thank you to all of the students who were with us to celebrate National Ag Week. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful National Ag Week, everyone.